Okay, so I'll just jump in. Devin had asked me to speak about a certain topic today, which about that, I was actually gonna maybe just wing it a little bit because I was gonna talk about loneliness and the holidays, and that was a live topic for me about a couple weeks ago when I was agreeing to it. But the thing about giving these talks sometimes is that 2 weeks later, and that's what you're kind of just over it, and then something else is more alive for you. So I was kind of second guessing myself, and I was like, well, should I? Shouldn't I? Should I just go with what I already know? Um, and so actually, that process in itself is kind of what I wanted to talk about. This idea of like second guessing yourself, questioning yourself, doubt, confidence, all that good stuff. Because that's what's going on in my head right now. I hope that's okay. Hopefully you'll find something relatable and useful out of that. Um, okay, so if you really knew me, you'd know that I am Mr. Self-doubt. So this is why it's an important topic for me. I'm Mr. Paralysis Analysis. Which I don't want to make it sound all bad because there's a protective function to it. It keeps you from making mistakes. And most importantly, it can protect you from looking dumb. Most importantly to me, but you know, there's also a lot of drawbacks to it. It's uh, it's not a very spontaneous way to live, and that's no fun a lot of the time. It limits opportunities because I miss out on things. Like it's like the moment is gone, and I already like missed out on whatever opportunity I was second guessing. Um, uh, let's see what else. Yeah, I postponed things. I postponed this invitation to speak here. I postponed everything basically. Um, Also, it doesn't feel good to like miss out on things, and then you beat yourself up about it, and you're like, oh, I should have done that. It's like it's not always a fun way to live. Okay, so case in point, real life example. The other day, I was walking out of a cafe. I had a book in my hand that I was reading that I was into, and this woman who was sitting on the sidewalk yells out to me, "Hey, is that a good book?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is actually." And she's like, "Can I have it?" And I was like, it just kind of froze me. And she just kind of went on. She's like, "Oh, I need a good book. I'm kind of bored just sitting here on the sidewalk." And so I didn't know what to say. I was just kind of gave her a polite smile, and I kept it moving. I wished her well. Um, yeah, I'm not proud of this, but living in LA, sometimes you get a little jaded, and it feels like everyone wants something from you. To be fair, she did actually literally want something from me. Um, but so what happens, as always happens with me, is like halfway down the street, I start thinking about it, and I'm like, well, maybe she needs it more than I do. I'm almost finished with it. It was like kind of a self-helpy book, and I kind of like got the gist of it. So I was like, maybe she needs it more than I do. Maybe she could benefit from it more than I do. Maybe I've learned what I needed to learn from it. Maybe this is my Luke Skywalker moment where I just, let go. Which is fine. I mean, I think a lot of people go through processes like that, right? But for me, it always takes a dark turn. So then it starts getting into, oh, well, look at you, Mr. Compassion, Mr. Buddhist. Look at you being attached to things. You just like to walk the walk or talk the talk. You don't really walk the walk. Like this is like all going on in my head, and like as I'm hearing myself say it, it's like really unnecessary, especially like the tone of it. Like, why am I being so sarcastic with myself? Um, I think the word hypocrite came up. It's like I call myself these names. So yeah, I just started going down this rabbit hole. But luckily, I have some amount of practice under my belt, so I was able to just kind of like pause that. I use it as an opportunity to practice OTP, which is a new term I learned recently. I kind of slowed down. I stood there on the sidewalk. I just breathed for a minute, and I just said, "You know what? You're okay. You're not a terrible human. Your worth and goodness does not depend on you giving this book away, which is just some rule you made up in your head about what a good person is supposed to do, right? Because the thing is, I just really wanted to finish it. And it's mine. I paid for it. And I deserve to finish it, I think. I'm right where I need to be. My practice is right where it needs to be. And in any case, we as humans don't grow linearly in a straight line. You know, sometimes we do selfish things, sometimes we do nice things. Sometimes a seed gets planted in your mind first, and then you act on it, you know, down the road. So so maybe next time. Maybe when I'm finished, I give it to someone else. Maybe I put it in one of those little urban library kiosk thingies, you know. Maybe maybe I go back and give it to her. She's always there, morning, noon, and night on the same corner. I know exactly where she is. So yeah, so that was a real like effort for me. Like I don't know, maybe some of y'all like this is not a big deal to you and you just are really decisive all the time, but again, I'm just letting you in on how my mind works. Um and I know where it comes from. It has a lot to do with how I was raised and how I was spoken to, and we don't need to get into all that, but you know, it also comes from a place. It's not like I'm just flawed as a human. Like we're all products of our conditioning, right? So these are voices that are coming through me from other people, essentially. But it doesn't like serve me anymore, you know. In fact, it's like often just causes me a lot of misery and pain. Another way that this comes up, this self doubt, is as I said, I've been being asked to participate in certain opportunities more, like being asked to speak, being asked to write certain things, and I found myself. I noticed that I've been really grateful for these opportunities, and I keep saying it. I think Devin might even attest to this, where I'll just spend like a good like couple minutes being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you asked me. Thank you so much." Like, you know, which is fine. It's authentic. Like I am truly appreciative, but also if I'm being honest, it comes from like this place of insecurity and like y'all are doing me a favor by listening to me, or like, oh, they must not realize that I don't have anything actually interesting or original to say, like all that stuff. So the thanking is like is a way to cope with that. It's almost like, you know, people who like over apologize, and so that's another opportunity because I know how I get when I see someone else doing that. So I've been able to step back from myself a little bit and just sometimes you can just be real with yourself, you know, with enough practice and just be like, dude, come on. Like, are you listening to yourself? Like, would you just get over it? You know, like I can give myself those talks that the real friend can give you sometimes. It's like, okay, we get it. You feel inadequate. Can you just like try to own it a little bit? Even if you don't fully feel it, can you act like you feel it? You know, that kind of thing. Stuff I would tell my friends if they were, you know, being too apologetic. So here I am, acting like I have something helpful to say. um, so what has really helped me get to this point is my practice, and I just wanted to say a few words about that in a little bit more in depth. So I've been practicing in the Zen tradition a lot lately, and in Korean Zen we have this saying, um, "큰 믿음, 큰 용기, 큰 의심." So it's the easiest translation would be um, great faith, great courage, and great doubt. Um, but I'm going to break that down just a little bit. So faith, meaning like not necessarily in the religious sense. I don't necessarily subscribe to like God or magic or anything like that. And it's okay if you do, but faith more as in like our inherent uh, trust in our inherent nature, our inherent capacity to awaken. Um, and so this is something really new that I've been jazzed about. Like it's a slightly different way of thinking. In all the Theravada practice that I've learned, it's got a little bit more of a connotation of like if you meditate enough and if you practice enough and if you live enough by the Eightfold Path and all the different lists, right? Um, then you will attain awakening. That's sort of how the math works. But with Zen, it's a little bit more like you were already awakened all along, and you're trying to just reclaim and recover and rediscover that, which just I don't know. Maybe it's semantics, but it feels kind of nice to me, you know. Okay, so that's faith. Um, Yongi, courage. So not brashness or like cockiness or arrogance. We all know what that looks like. Lord knows there's a lot of that going around these days. You know, I have a narcissistic dad. I'm very familiar with that type of personality. It almost feels like it's becoming a cultural norm. You know, it's almost like praised and valued these days. Anyway, I'm not. You gotta sometimes stop yourself from going on these little rants. But courage more as like the strength to act in alignment with your true nature. Um, it's funny because you don't necessarily think of Buddhists as being courageous. That's not the first word that comes to mind. Courageous, because it seems like the stereotype is of like this passive monk or something. But courage can look a lot of ways in different contexts. It doesn't have to be in the form of like a narcissist or a warrior per se. I was case in point. I was listening to a podcast recently with they were interviewing a cook that I like from a restaurant that I really enjoy, and she was saying that she bases all of her dishes that she creates essentially on trying to recreate some feeling of nostalgia, like trying to evoke some experience or feeling that she's had in the past. And basically, she was saying something to the effect that to her, it doesn't matter so much if it sells well or if it gets a bad review. It At least she was convicted in her reasons for putting in the time and the effort for creating that dish, you know, and that it was not time wasted. It was time well spent because it was based on her own experience. And the one thing that she can be confident in more than anyone else is her own experience. Right. So that's what courage can look like. Just the courage to be authentic. Um, as a side note, I just realized a couple minutes ago when I was thinking about this anecdote that this is essentially the plot to Ratatouille, isn't it? Kind of. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, don't worry. But sorry, I think I just spoiled it for you. Um, okay. And then Kun Yonggi, great doubt. This is actually, according to many teachers, the most important aspect of this triumvirate. And this is not the kind of doubt that I was talking about before, that sort of like toxic self punishment that comes from, you know, past experiences. That's even a hindrance. It's literally on the list of 5 hindrances, according to the Dharma. So doubt meaning, actually, I'm going to pull up a quote. Stephen Batchelor has a really good quote about this. He calls it a fundamental sense of uncertainty and questioning, no matter what this teacher says or what that text says is true. So basically, just sort of doubting, having a healthy doubt of what you've been told, and just trying to learn and experience based on your own, perceptions and feelings, etc. What is it? Be a lamp unto thyself, ehipassiko, right? Something like that. Um, there's a lot to quote about this. Yasutani Roshi, who's a famous Japanese Zen master, calls great doubt a state of perplexity or probing inquiry. It's really just like mindfulness, it's just like being present to what you're experiencing without judgments, without labels, without words. It's just without any kind of like mitigating interpretation. It's just let me experience it firsthand for myself. It's kind of like how I think of mindfulness, really. Um, yes, so this all goes back a few centuries to this Chinese philosopher. I'm going to mispronounce his name because I'm not Chinese. Gaofeng Yuan Miao. And he said, the more faith you have, the more doubt you have. When doubt is 100%, awakening is 100%. Which is like kind of paradoxical. Then people like to really like mess with you a little bit. But that's the fun of it. You just kind of sit with that paradox, and it causes doubt. And then through that doubt, on the other side of that doubt is like real, true, deep understanding. Okay, so why does any of this matter? Well, I mean, in a nutshell, at least for me personally, it's just a really confusing time these days, like not going to get too political, but I just find myself being scared and confused a lot about what's going on, what to do. I thought my basic working model of the world was be educated, spread awareness, do your civic duty. Things will kind of work themselves out. That does not seem to be what's happening right now, So I had a faith in a lot of things, and that faith is being shaken. Um, and not only that, but like what I thought about people, like whatever you want to think about the system or how fair it is or not, like some 80 million people voted for that guy, and that's just like confuses me about people. I have doubt in people now in a way that I never used to. So I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have any answers to what to do about the world, but the thing that I keep coming back to is just like this feeling of okay, start from the center, start from myself. What do I know for sure? What am I confident about? Who are the folks that think and feel similarly to me? Let me close ranks with them. Let's bunker up and just, weather this storm however you need to, and we'll just take it from there. But we start with the courage, the faith in ourselves, the doubt about what's going on in the world. Let's see. I think I'm starting to feel complete. But I do have one more quote that I think really like sums it up really well. This is from a Zen teacher, Bonhe. She's American, but she ordained in Zen and has a Korean name. She says, great faith doesn't mean faith in something or faith that things will turn out your way. Faith actually needs no object. It's living life in the way that your foot meets the ground when you walk. I love that. Your foot never wonders if the ground is there for it. Great courage means not giving up. Changing course is no problem, but you have to keep going. Great courage doesn't have to be dramatic. Every time you do something that's a little difficult or a little unpleasant, and you do it until you're finished, that's great courage right there. Love that too. Great doubt is most important. People think religion is about belief, but it isn't. What am I? What is this universe? What should I do? These are all not questions that can be answered once and for all. Don't evade them. Find a spiritual practice that helps you look at them steadily and practice with great faith and great courage. So yeah, take that in for a minute. And that's the why. You know, why practice? Just that's the why. That sums it up, I think, better than I could have. That could have been the whole talk right there. And as I'm saying that, I'm recognizing I'm self-deprecating. So disregard. But it was still a cool quote. Yeah, I think I'm good. I'll close. The final thought that comes to mind is that there's a teacher, George Haas, who simply used to say, "I love you, keep going." So I love you all, keep going. Faith, courage, doubt. I think I'm good.
That's what's up right there.